The story begins with Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, rushing off to the hospital after hearing from Mary Jane, MJ Watson, that his Aunt May was rushed to the hospital after having a stroke. While the news is raving about Spider-Man's new black suit, Peter asks reception where his aunt is being held when Eddie Brock shows up to have checked up on her. After hearing the situation from Gwen Stacy about Aunt May, Eddie rushes to the hospital, even given the possibility he would run into Peter, who is still furious at him for taking pictures of Spider-Man and sending them to the Daily Bugle, where their boss, J. Jonah Jameson, despises. Although worried he would run into Peter, Eddie realized that it wasn't a problem after all, as Peter would not bother to show up for the only person who raised him by herself when his parents died. Eddie walks away and bumps into Peter, to which the black alien symbiote reacts. Peter finds Aunt May, which Dr. Bromwell claims to be in full recovery, but urges them both not to belittle the situation and take it seriously. Peter keeps apologizing to her for not being there when she needs him, but Aunt May reassures him that she's feeling okay. She then urged him to head to school as everything was being handled. When Peter heads out, he runs into the nurse who asks him to sign up a bunch of forms for her aunt. When he sees the medical bill, he has to pay for her treatment. Although still worried, Peter goes to school feeling depressed when his friend Gwen, MJ, and Liz Allen show up, worried after hearing the news. MJ admitted that she told everyone about his aunt while Gwen tried to comfort him, saying they all just wanted to help. Stressed out over the massive hospital bill, Peter lashes out at his friends, wondering how they could help him at this point. He sarcastically asks them if they want to do his homework or borrow his camera, and do his job by taking Spider-Man pictures. He claims he needs the money to pay the massive hospital bill they owe for Aunt May's confinement. MJ explains that they were worried about him and his aunt while trying to be his friend, when Peter rudely responds that unless his so-called friends are ready to give him cash to pay the hospital bills, his friends can keep their so-called help and sympathy to themselves. Peter walks out on them while Gwen tries to reason with him. Spider-Man later slings around New York City, still stressed about the money he needs to pay the hospital, claiming he doesn't need friends, and that's what he needs right now is lots of money. Worried that Mr. Jameson and the Daily Bugle will not be able to pay the money he needs, Spider-Man meets up with the criminal overlord, Tombstone, and single-handedly beats up two of his best guards. After a show of strength and demonstrating his power, Spider-Man wonders if the offer Tombstone initially gave him is still available. Tombstone is suspicious of Spider-Man's sudden change of heart and decides to test him. As a show of loyalty and proof he's ready to align himself under him, he orders Spider-Man not to fight crime for a week, unless a supervillain shows up that endangers public safety. Only then will he have the liberty to fight supervillains. Determined to get a hefty payout, Spider-Man agrees to Tombstone's condition. Eddie shows up at ESU, short for Empire State University Biogenetics Lab. He is informed that due to the missing alien life form, the university cannot continue Eddie's employment due to the loss of a government grant. Eddie claims he needs the money to pay for tuition. Otherwise, he would need to drop out of ESU. Meanwhile, Gwen keeps spacing out over what happened with Peter earlier during lunch. MJ shows up and calls out her peculiar behavior. Gwen claims that the hard part of helping someone is not knowing how to help them. With Harry in Europe and Peter spiraling and lashing out, Gwen doesn't know where to put herself in their lives. MJ suspects Gwen likes Peter more than friends, which she claims to understand her dilemma given that Gwen and Peter have been friends for a long time. She explains that losing him as a friend might be hard if she ever acted on her feelings, but MJ suggests she has to step up if she ever wants to have a relationship with him. MJ criticizes Peter that despite how smart he can be pretty dense given that he is a guy. Spider-Man shows up at the hospital and runs into Eddie, who blames Peter for losing his job, when Peter shoves him to the wall and tells him to get out of his life. He then shoves Eddie to the ground when the hospital guard tries to stop the fight. When Peter enters the room, he gets a call from Gwen, who thinks she is a bother and decides to screen her calls, who he thought was talking behind his back about how disappointed they were in him. Eugene Flash Thompson shows up and confronts Peter, and calls out how he was a jerk to his friends and to Gwen, who he just hung up. He explains how he is rude to the people trying to help him. Later, Spider-Man contemplates his recent behavior and how he acted toward his friends. His friends had always supported him despite his odd behavior, like when he slept through the Sinister Six attack or how he just asked Tombstone for a job. He later realizes that the alien symbiote is changing him, and how he thinks as it slowly takes over his life. He felt he needed to get it off when its inner voice tried to stop him by explaining that he was overreacting. Peter tries to remove the suit, but it tries to fight back and clings to him as hard as possible. When Peter jumps into the church bell, making it fritz for a minute, Peter realizes that the alien symbiote doesn't like the vibrations that the bell makes, so Peter tries to give it a big punch, which the symbiote admits it doesn't like, but not enough to break them and their bond. In retaliation for trying to hurt it, the symbiote takes control of Peter through the suit, rendering him unable to move while it restrains him with its web. It then forms a cocoon to cover his body with the suit as it tries to attack his mind and his memories. Peter later finds himself in his younger state while supposed to be dead. Uncle Ben wakes him, claiming he will be late for his field trip. Still in shock after seeing Uncle Ben alive, he hugs him. When Aunt May walks in and wonders why Peter has not attended school, Uncle Ben finds Peter's behavior unusual, but Peter claims he is in such a good mood being a family again. Peter finds himself on the fateful field trip where he first got his powers. Realizing that it was the same field trip he remembers, he is determined to change it, hoping it would also change the fate of Uncle Ben, which was intertwined with him becoming Spider-Man. The tour guide describes ESU's spectacular collection of spiders, which have all been genetically altered to combine the most impressive traits from multiple species into 15 super-engineered spiders. Gwen claims to have counted only 14, meaning one super spider has gone missing, when Peter later finds himself bitten by it again. Peter starts feeling weird when he suddenly finds himself in front of a car about to be run over when he jumps up a building. While confused about how he managed to stay latched onto the wall, he sees tiny hairs growing on his palm, allowing him to climb walls. As he scaled to the top of the building, he was shocked to have dented a pipe with ease that he let go. As he falls from the top of the building, he suddenly has web shooters on his arms and web slings to safety. Amazed by his newfound powers, he enters an illegal fight ring to get some cash. Under a cage ring to test their skill, strength, and stamina, Spider-Man is pitted against Venue's undefeated legend, Crusher Hogan. The referee explains that his gimmick is catchy, but it is only worth something if he beats Crusher. Confident in his skills, Spider-Man goads the referee for $1,000 if he wins against Crusher. Crusher immediately pushes Spider-Man to the wall when the battle starts, but he breaks free with his overwhelming strength. He climbs to the ceiling and shoots a web on Crusher's back to lift him into the air and drop him from a height to knock him out. After being declared the winner, Spider-Man meets with the referee to collect his prize money when he is told to sign an exclusive contract with Sullivan Edwards, which he declines. Out of nowhere, a thief comes out of Sullivan's office and asks Spider-Man to stop him. Spider-Man let him get away, explaining that it's not his problem to fix. He later waits for Uncle Ben, who was supposed to pick him up, and thinks he must have had problems finding a parking spot. He later finds Aunt May crying, who informs him of Uncle Ben's passing. Spider-Man goes rogue and tracks down the thief who killed his uncle for his car, trying to escape from the cops. As he goes dark and confronts the thief, he later discovers it to be the same man he let go from the venue. Peter blames himself for his uncle's death for letting go of the man who would eventually kill him. With Peter miserable and guilty, the symbiote tries to convince him it is the world that takes away everything he loves and no one to trust except for him. It promises Peter they can have everything together and no one can stop them. As Peter reaches out to the symbiote, giving in to its temptation, Uncle Ben stops him. He then brings Peter to the memory just before the fight in the arena. He teaches him that he forever lives by, with great power, there must also come great responsibility. After some insightful words of wisdom, Spider-Man is back to where he started when he was about to take his revenge on the thief. He pushes him out of the window and drops him to fall to his death, but is suddenly saved when Spider-Man shoots a web on his foot to catch his fall. With that, Spider-Man has lived up to what Uncle Ben has told him when the cops show up to arrest the thief dangling from Spider-Man's web. He later shows Spider-Man all the good he has done since saving people and catching bad guys. The symbiote lures him back to the dark, claiming that despite all the good he has done, he has no rewards, the girl, nor friends to show for it. Uncle Ben pulls him aside and shows Peter his true friends and family, who have always supported him, albeit with or without his knowledge. After realizing what he needs to be fighting for, thanks to Uncle Ben's help, Peter suits up as Spider-Man and fights back against the symbiote in the black suit. When Spider-Man tries to push back the symbiote, it claims to have taken his mind, body, and soul, and fighting it is useless. As Spider-Man slowly gets swallowed by the black ooze, Uncle Ben pulls him up, claiming he is stronger than he thinks. When he believes his uncle's words, he's reminded of all the important people in his life, and fights back. With every punch he gets in at the symbiote, he slowly breaks free from the black cocoon until it finally gets destroyed in his mind. With Spider-Man free from the cocoon, he claims he knows what to do. He explains that the symbiote feeds off his negative emotions and slowly rips up the black suit by using the bell's vibrations as a trigger. Although it begged to stay, Spider-Man is determined to remove it from his life and body. Eddie thought of returning to ESU Biogenetics Lab to clear out his stuff when he found Spider-Man returning the symbiote in the chamber. Grateful for returning it and saving his job, Eddie is shocked when Spider-Man sets it to the lowest temperature. He tries to stop Spider-Man by explaining that putting the symbiote in the atmosphere would kill it, which Spider-Man claims are what he is doing. After the symbiote freezes up, Spider-Man makes his exit, but not before claiming that it is dangerous to have left alive. Eddie is furious for taking away his last chance at saving his job when the symbiote comes back alive. After feeding off Eddie's negative emotions, when he realized that the symbiote was calling out to him, he opened the chamber and it wrapped around him. It claims to have sensed his strong emotions of anger and fury against Peter Parker and Spider-Man. The symbiote later showed memories of Peter as Spider-Man, revealing his identity and secrets to Eddie. Fueled by his rage, Eddie accepts the symbiote and bonds together to achieve their goal of eliminating Peter Parker and Spider-Man and becoming the newest supervillain, Venom. The end. Thank you for watching. Please check out these other videos and make sure to subscribe and tap the bell icon to be notified about our latest videos. We'll see you next time.